They should have just given us a stage show of the actual series. Hey guys, what's up? So let's talk about Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. But first, release night. Most of you know I just read Harry for the first time this year, so I've never gone to any sort of Harry Potter event before. This was my very first one, and it was so much fun. I met up with She Might Be Monica and Emma Books, and we went to Books of Wonder, which is a children's bookstore here in New York City, and we celebrated in full Harry Potter fashion. And I love this community so much. This was my first time meeting Monica and Emma. They're the sweetest humans ever. I felt like we've been friends for years, and we had never met before. BookTube brings us together so much. It's just beautiful. And we also met up with Adam, who runs this gorgeous Bookstagram account, which you should totally check out. So putting all remarks about the play itself aside for a minute, I just want to say how thankful I am that this thing exists because of what it did for us as readers. It brought readers together all over the world. It packed bookstores all over the world. It brought back so much magic and memories for everyone who grew up with these stories, and it gave us all a place to escape together with this common great love for Harry Potter. It's just such a beautiful thing. Oh my gosh, and Monica had the most perfectly Hermione moment. Right before midnight, they started asking some trivia to the first 4 people in line to decide who was going to get the first book at midnight. The very first question they asked was, what is the name of the little owl Sirius gives to Ron? Nobody knew the answer! And Monica, who is a little bit ahead of where Emma and I were standing, I just see her hand. It was so great. And they proceeded to ask 4 or 5 more questions, and nobody could answer any of them. And they were easy questions, like, what are the unforgivable curses? Also, right before midnight, the crowd started busting out into Hamilton songs. Before the countdown, it was glorious. There's nothing better than the convergence of Harry and Ham fans. So now let's talk about the play. The script. I haven't seen the play. And this will be full of spoilers, so if you don't want to know what happens, or you're not familiar with how Harry ends up, goodbye. Thanks for watching, go read, and talk to you later. So I ended up giving this a very generous 3 stars. And I had a few reasons for this. First being, as I already mentioned, the beautiful things that it's doing for bookstores and for readers. It's bringing people together. It's been a bright spot in an overall dark year full of a lot of tragedy, and I'm grateful to it for that reason alone. Second thing I enjoyed about this was all of the positive affirmation that Ron and Hermione do belong together. No matter what sort of alternate reality they're thrown into, they most certainly do belong together. It really bothers me when people say that they shouldn't have ended up together. They've always balanced each other out so perfectly and been so cute together and so good for each other. My third favorite thing was Dumbledore. In a mess of nonsense, Dumbledore was truly the only authentic voice. I was like, oh, here is a voice I recognize, finally. And even though it was just his portrait, it still gave me a little bit of closure for the Harry-Dumbledore relationship. There was a lot of things left unsaid, so I appreciated what it did in that respect. And lastly, the thing that caused me to give this a very high 3 stars is the Malfoys. The Malfoys. Draco was on my most hated list through this whole series. I did begin to pity him in Half-Blood Prince, and I had a feeling that he would turn out to be an okay adult. I'm glad this play confirmed that for me. His progression felt right and believable, and I love that he's been accepted into the fold a little bit. And then we have his son, Scorpius, the saving grace of this whole thing. Finally, a Slytherin we can be proud of. Scorpius is nerdy and witty and smart. He's a good friend, a good son. He's just wonderful, and he's the only character in this whole play who had more than one dimension. And though I hate Albus, hate him still, I really appreciated the Albus-Scorpius friendship. They really loved each other, and they weren't afraid to hug and be sort of affectionate with each other, which I think is so important to portray, especially for young people reading this, young boys, to see that it's okay to show affection for someone you care about. There's no shame in that. These things are the only things I choose to accept as truth. These things are the things that warranted the 3 out of 5 star rating, although the rest of it was completely atrocious. It hurts. As happy as it makes me, it also upsets me kind of an equal amount, and I don't even know how to feel about this anymore. Reason one for my dislike is simply that it fell so short of my own personal expectations. I expected a new year at Hogwarts with a new generation and Professor Neville and Headmistress McGonagall and Hagrid still looking out for his favorite kids. Yeah, we got none of that. I was also excited for new magic and new problems and new magical artifacts, new villains. None of that. Something else I was really looking forward to was more insight into Harry's special relationship with his middle child, which was very apparent in the Deathly Hallows epilogue. His middle son is a little bit different than the other two, and they had this connection that was very obvious, and I was looking forward to learning more about that and seeing how they interact with each other. But more on that later. What we're given here is, as someone else described it, Harry's greatest hits. There's nothing new, nothing noteworthy, nothing that adds anything to the original stories. We get a rehashing of old events, only now it's put together in a different and worse way. We get an outlandish time travel story that completely disregards all former laws and rules of time travel and time turners that were established back in Azkaban. We revisit several scenes from Harry's life that we have already experienced multiple times in some cases. And all of this is brought about by Cedric Diggory. Yes, his death was tragic and unnecessary when it happened over 20 years ago. And of course Harry will always carry some guilt for that, I would imagine. But can we just let the kid rest in peace? Anyway, back to Harry's greatest hits. I feel they revisited all of these old scenes and old characters in a way that was detrimental to the original story, in a way that undermined carefully crafted plots and rules and characterizations, kind of threw everything out the window, especially with character behavior, but more on that later. Right now, I'm just talking about plot points, like the kids taking Polyjuice Potion to break into the Ministry in search of something. Where have I heard that before? First off, McGonagall tells Hermione, oh, these random ingredients are missing, that we will all remember are ingredients for a Polyjuice Potion. How does that not click together in Hermione's mind? This is Hermione, for crying out loud. She just thinks nothing of it? I don't think so. Second, the trio pulled this exact same stunt over 20 years ago, and the Ministry still has no Polyjuice security in place, especially again with Hermione running things. This is something she would do. Also, just things like allowing her office to open with an Alohomora spell. Excuse me? Where has Hermione gone? And when the kids aren't recreating exact scenes like this, instead of, you know, doing something original, Harry's scar hurting. Oh, I meant to put a scar on my face today and I forgot. The scar had not pained Harry for 19 years. All was well. Well, all was well. The end. The close of an era. Voldemort is gone. The connection is broken. It is ludicrous to me that they dredged this up again, instead of creating new villains and new plot points. And something so great about this series is the way every single installment gave us something new and exciting. This gave us nothing. We even have to watch Harry's parents die again. For the love of God, enough. I sincerely don't understand why they didn't just create a stage show of the actual series. Reason number two, aside from the recycled plot, is what makes me completely disregard this as a real extension of Harry's story, and that is the characterization. Unforgivable. Yes, people change. I'm not the same person I was 19 years ago, or even 5 years ago, or 2 years ago, but the core of who we are doesn't change, and I have never met any of these people before, except Draco and Dumbledore. They were all caricatures of themselves. Ron. Oh, poor Ron. My favorite. Relegated to comic relief. Yes, he often provides some levity, but he is a strong, intelligent person who had a lot to offer in this series. He's a buffoon in this script. He offers nothing except stupidity, and I lost it when he said he was too drunk to remember marrying Hermione. Excuse me? Get out of my sight. Why is he such a joke? My poor baby. And Harry. This is not my Harry. He bullies McGonagall. He treats his son like trash. Albus is a little butthead, but I mean, Harry shouldn't be treating his kid this way. I hated his relationship with Albus and it made no sense. I fully expected there to be some arguments, some trials of just being the son of Harry Potter, but they're just cruel to each other. If anyone understands feeling outcast, misunderstood, unloved, mistreated, lonely, it is Harry Potter. Yet he treats his son, who feels all of these same feelings, like they're from different planets. He's different than the other kids, and I wish he was more like the other kids, and he's so hard to get to know. Harry would never say things like this. And the whole, I wish you weren't my dad, well, I wish you weren't my son. Harry would never say such a thing. What really angered me though was Harry saying, I don't know how to be a dad because I didn't have one. First of all, Harry would never blame his dead father for his own shortcomings. And second, what about Hagrid? A man who cared for Harry and loved him his whole life, always was there for him, always watched out for him. What about Sirius? What about Lupin? What about Dumbledore? Let's just slap them all in the face, Harry, good job. And Harry, subject of merciless torment and unfounded rumors his whole life, would never buy into some crazy rumor that Scorpius is the son of Voldemort, let alone ban his son from seeing his only friend. Ridiculous. This is just nonsense. And seriously, look at Scorpius's hair. Where does anyone think that came from, if not from Draco? And then we had some imposter calling himself Snape here. I get that that was an alternate reality, but in no reality would Snape ever say this dialogue. This is the Snape everyone wants to believe in. A Snape with a sense of humor and a hidden affinity for Harry Potter. But that is not Snape. Ever. He is a troubled, problematic character who still inspires heated debates about heroism and obsession and love and anti-heroism. And this guy was not that guy. This felt like one giant, let's make all fans' theories and dreams come true and not worry about the authenticity of anything. It even managed to murder Cedric Diggory's character. I mean, what the actual hell? This play has the audacity to imply that had Cedric been embarrassed in front of a bunch of people, he would have turned to the dark side, swearing allegiance to Voldemort and murder Neville. Cedric was a kind-hearted, sweet person who was kind to Harry when he had no reason to be and when nobody else was treating Harry with kindness. He had a good soul. There is no way he would let embarrassment turn him into a devil-worshipping murderer. That is perhaps the most ridiculous of all atrocities here. And these wildly out-of-character depictions are what prevent me from accepting this as a true extension of the Harry Potter series. And I'm having a really hard time dealing with the fact that Jo had a hand in this and approved this. I can't get my mind around that. I also don't think I will ever be able to scrub from my mind the image of Voldemort making babies. And let's not even go there because I can't. However, despite how much it sounds like I hated it, and I kind of did, I'm keeping it at 3 stars because of the anticipation and excitement and togetherness it inspired outweighs the negativity for me. And I also do think it will be a beautiful piece of theater, which is the way it's actually supposed to be experienced. The effects should be spectacular. When it comes to New York, my butt will be in a seat. I'm dying to know what you all thought of this. I've heard such polarizing opinions of it. It feels like a Snape argument. Some loathe it, some love it, both sides have good reasoning. It's very interesting. Let me know if you guys have read it, how you feel about it, if you've seen it, and did you love or hate any other points I didn't talk about, like the trolley witch turning into a demon. What level of nonsense is this? Okay guys, I'll talk to you soon. I'm on Instagram at PinkLemonadeReads and on Snapchat and Twitter at STEPlace720. Thank you for watching. Happy reading. Knox!